Greetings and salutations to you, the fine people of YouTube. If you've been here before, you already know what it is. We're about to go through every single matchup on the Week 12 slate, a pretty exciting one. Before I actually get into the actual content, odds are you are not subscribed to the channel. If you want to support in any way, shape, or form, dropping a sub, dropping a like, or adding some feedback in the comments, or some combination of all of that is greatly valuable to me. If you have already done that, thank you so much. To those who are about to do it right now, thank you. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. We're going to go slate by slate here. So we're going to go early slate, late slate. The Monday night game will be linked here somewhere in some sort of separate short video because I want to get this up and posted for you on Tuesday morning. I don't want to stay up till 2 or 3 a.m. burning myself out. So let's go ahead and start with the Steelers and the Bears. Pretty rough day for Mason Rudolph, just thinking and dunking like crazy. 24 of 31 looks pretty good on a stat sheet, but just 171 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Kenneth Gainwell, back-to-back weeks with some pretty good results here. 10 carries for 92 yards. He also had 6 receptions for 30 yards. Jaylen Warren, not super effective on the ground, but sees 18 carries. His volume, reliable from a fantasy standpoint. Gainwell outsnapped Warren 52 to 49%. Got 6 targets. Jaylen Warren did not get any. They both got a rush inside the 5. Gainwell gets all the 2-minute work. If we look at the past 2 weeks, I know Jaylen Warren left with an injury, but the past 2 weeks, Kenneth Gainwell is the RB2, and Jaylen Warren is RB24. I still prefer Warren to Gainwell, but this amount of usage and involvement looks pretty well for Gainwell as just a flex option or an injury pinch RB3 type. Don't mind playing him in those spots. From a receiver standpoint, DK Metcalf led the team in routes run. No one surprised there. Led the team in targets as well. Got a couple of rushing opportunities and took those into his score on the week. About 14 fantasy points, which is a wide receiver 21 finish. I think that's about where we can expect him to finish going forward, and maybe understanding that he will have, we think, some games where he cracks the top 10 just because of his touchdown ability, but on games where he doesn't score, he is going to disappoint you. He's kind of like a boom or bust low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. Kind of similar to Courtland Sutton, but maybe more reliant on long playability. The good thing about DK Metcalf, as opposed to Courtland Sutton, is his quarterback's better and he doesn't have as much competition for targets. Not interested in any of the tight ends. They are good from a real life standpoint, but none of them receive a target share of greater than 12%. At least that's what the case was yesterday. Over the course of the season, Jonnu Smith, 13%, Pat Freiermuth, 10%, Darnell Washington, 9%. If we could combine all three of those guys together, it's 30+% of the pie in Pittsburgh, but they're not fantasy relevant. Over to the Bears, DeAndre Swift lost a fumble early, and from that point forward, Kyle Monangai outsnapped DeAndre Swift. I don't think this is going to be a 50-50 split moving forward. It could be. I just think maybe that's a result of DeAndre Swift's fumble. Swift has been really good this year. Big letdown yesterday. The Bears, 8-3. It's their best start in almost 20 years. Pretty impressive job that Ben Johnson is doing over there. Obviously, the moves they made in improving the offensive line panned out. A couple of receivers they selected early in the draft starting to come along a little bit. Heading into Monday Night Football, Colston Loveland is the tight end 3 this week. And Luther Burden, not the best game, but pretty dang good involvement here. 5 targets, catches 3 of them. Nothing groundbreaking, but encouraging to see him start to get more involvement. DJ Moore leads the way in terms of production. Wide receiver 6 heading into Monday night. But the real story is Rome Odunze. Got the most snaps of any pass catcher. Ran more routes than anyone else. Received more targets. Just didn't lead to results. He had 5 of his 9 targets were catchable. If your trade deadline hasn't passed, I would go see what you'd have to pay to get Rome Odunze. He's still being used as the guy. It just has not led to fantasy success the past handful of weeks. If we go back their past 5 games, he's wide receiver 26, but during that same span, his target share is 23%. So I think we will have some positive regression back to the mean. That's a risk that you're okay taking. I would see what you'd have to pay to go get him in a trade. Patriots Bengals. We'll start with the home team. Biggest storyline is T. Higgins. He is out for Thanksgiving on Joe Burrow's return. That's really disappointing. Burrow will be back there to play the Ravens on Thursday. Disappointing there. Andre Josivac should be a decent fill-in in the meantime. It could be a multiple week absence. Higgins was laying on the ground, seemed unconscious for a little bit. Kind of a scary injury. Hope he has a speedy recovery there. I guess Mitchell Tinsley in deeper leagues would be interesting. He ran 30 routes, which was second most on the team when you consider T. Higgins got hurt late and left. Jamar Chase obviously comes back. That helps, but T. Higgins out, Jamar Chase in. Josivac and Tinsley can be used. Samaje Perine's been out the past few weeks, and Chase Brown has taken advantage of that. He's the RB12 heading into Monday Night Football. Only 4 targets this week, was getting a ton more in previous weeks. Still think he has a lot of upside there. The Patriots defense has been pretty good against running backs, and considering that, Chase Brown did pretty well. Joe Burrow, do we want to start him his first game back? Honestly, it's hard to tell what he's going to do, right? It hasn't been easy to predict a lot of things in the NFL this year, like J.J. McCarthy being awful. Sorry, did not mean to have him catch a stray there. Sam Darnold continuing his resurgence. Couldn't find a word there. Lamar Jackson not really being a running threat post-injury. Definitely not himself. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Joe Burrow, I'm not going to put it past him to come back and run it up and have some really impressive weeks. I know he's been itching to play, but if I was a Bengals fan, I would almost consider, why are we bringing Joe Burrow into this right now? I don't know. I would go ahead and start him. If I had him, I wouldn't start him over any top 5 options, but if I'm debating Joe Burrow or low-end QB1s, I would roll the dice with Burrow. And for the Patriots, disappointing day. Kind of felt like we had the potential to see some huge performances from a lot of members of this Patriots offense. Did not see it from Stephon Diggs. Did not see it from Kayshon Boutte. Did not see it from Ramondre Stevenson, who had only 6 touches to Travion Henderson's 21. The Patriots, on that note, had 5 goal line carries. Henderson got just 1 of them. You have to hope maybe they give him some more of those. That would seriously help his value. Will Campbell, reportedly an IR candidate, but also reportedly won't miss the rest of the season. He's their left tackle. Their left guard, Jared Wilson, also had an ankle injury in his week-to-week. I would say, given these lineman injuries, the Patriots' offense does get a little bump down across the board. That's a pretty integral part of, that's the point of attack for every NFL team, right? Is the line of scrimmage on both sides, which is why protecting the quarterback and getting to the quarterback are the 2 most important positions in football, line on both sides. Kind of strange seeing Mac Hollins run 31 routes to Diggs 21. Not sure how much to take away from this other than I am slightly downgrading everybody on the Patriots. Still okay starting. Drake May, obviously, he's still a stud. Stephon Diggs, I'm still going to roll him out there. Hunter Henry in plus matchups, roll him out. The biggest takeaway, though, for me, just from a big picture standpoint, is if you have a tight end and they're playing the Bengals, start them. Even if it seems you're not starting anyone over Trey McBride or Brock Bowers or anything like that, but if you got a 50-50, always go with the guy playing the Bengals. At this point, you'd be foolish to not follow the money there. One of the biggest headlines of the day was Jahmyr Gibbs had an absolutely insane performance, 55 performances in PPR, the 3rd best performance from a PPR running back since 2011. He had 26 touches. David Montgomery had just 8. The other crazy storyline here is that Detroit had 494 yards of offense, 0 for Jamison Williams, 0 catches on 3 targets. He's the definition of a boom-bust guy. And I typically like to avoid the bust part of that, no diddy. But that's what he is. He's gotten multiple goose eggs, and he's had multiple games where he catches a long touchdown, and I think going forward, there will be more positive games than negative, but at this point, I think this is just part of what we have to expect when it comes to Jameson Williams. David Montgomery, I've said in the past, I really like him in game scripts that figure to be positive for the Lions. And that's what we thought this game would have been. We were wrong. I didn't have the Giants taking the Lions to overtime. If you did, if you saw this game as being very competitive, which is the NFL, maybe I shouldn't have been so low on the Giants entering this game. If you think it's going to be competitive, Monty's probably not deserving of being in your lineup. I think he belongs there in blowout victories when they're trying to preserve Gibbs, they're trying to run the clock, they're trying to wear a team down. That was not the situation they were in here. Laporta being out for this season really, really sucks. Don't have too much to say about Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a monster. Very high floor, very high ceiling. The Giants, back-to-back really strong weeks from Tyrone Tracy. If we look at the past 2 weeks, he ranks as a RB1, the RB12 over the past couple weeks, and Devin Singletary in that same span is a low-end RB2, RB21. If we're looking, continuing to the receivers, Wan'Dale Robinson is the wide receiver 5 over that 2-game span, so I get it, small sample. And then if we're going to stay there with those pass catchers, here are their leaders in routes run. It goes Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, Theo Johnson, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton down. If we go to week 12, which Darius Slayton played in, he only ran 64% of the routes. So he was a trendy, popular, can I start this guy pick? He's being outsnapped by Isaiah Hodgins. So for me, if I'm rating the Giants pass catchers, obviously a tight end is its own thing. It's Wan'Dale Robinson, Isaiah Hodgins. Wan'Dale, I guess at this point, is a weekly start. Isaiah Hodgins, kind of like a dart throw. I would really like to not start him. I want to see what this all looks like when Jackson Dart comes back. Jameis Winston has been objectively better than Russell Wilson this year, and that's not saying a lot. It's funny, he is the QB1 on the week entering Sunday Night Football. That receiving touchdown really helps when you can haul in a 30-plus yard receiving touchdown. The catch, the yards after the catch, the celebration, it was all glorious. I wish that wasn't the only time that we're ever going to see that. I don't think we see that again. But, we can't get greedy. We got to enjoy what we have while we have it. I don't love seeing someone else fail. We've all, in our careers, personal lives, relationships, all that, gone off to slow starts or maybe not shown up as the version of ourselves that we know we're capable of being. And I think J.J. McCarthy is too early to completely write him off, but for what you are doing, setting a lineup and making decisions based off of what you think is going to happen in games, you cannot start any Vikings player and feel good about it right now. And as I'm saying that, I'm monitoring myself, checking, is this an overreaction? Is this a hyperbolic statement? And I genuinely do not think it is. It's honestly a testament to Justin Jefferson that over the course of the season, he ranks as wide receiver 13. If we look at the 4 games where J.J. McCarthy has returned, that drops down to wide receiver 21. Jordan Addison, since week 9, that same span, wide receiver 53. TJ Hawkinson, tight end 21. JJ McCarthy, QB 20. I don't know what to tell you at this point. Still not benching Justin Jefferson, but shoot, if you have options that are receiving like more catchable targets right now, his catchable target percentage since JJ McCarthy came back is just 61%, which is pretty dang low. If you want to compare that number to other guys like Zay Flowers during that time span, 90%. J-Mo, same thing. Puka, 87%. JSN, 86%. Darius Slayton, 85%. Debo, 84%. Stephon Diggs, 84%. Justin Jefferson, 61% of his targets are catchable. That's a pretty big drop-off in, hey, you're receiving 10 targets. 6 of them are catchable. That should raise red flags and alarms in your head. From a running perspective, Jordan Mason starting to receive a little more work maybe and was pretty dang effective when doing so. But again, doesn't matter when teams are going to dare you to throw and you can't do it. And it also doesn't matter if you just don't run the ball very much. Like they ran the ball 17 times here. And when you're trailing like they were, I can't even blame them for going pass heavy. They didn't even run that many plays. They had 20 rushes and 19 pass attempts. So just gross all the way around. For the Packers, one of the biggest stories of the weekend is Emmanuel Wilson. No Josh Jacobs, no problemo for this Packers offense. 28 carries, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's worth rostering. We've talked about, I'm not the only person who says this clearly, but just stashing backup running backs who would become the number one option if the starter were to go down. Like if there's a clear guy, like in Arizona, for instance, there is no clear number 2, right? That's not a very desirable situation. For Carolina, there was a clear number 2 when Chuba went down. For Green Bay, they showed you over the early stretch of the season, there was a clear number 2 if Josh Jacobs were to go down, right? So identifying these guys and using them as a late pick or as a free agent pickup, even if they're not going to net you any points in the meantime, just stashing them for that opportunity if they do get a bigger role is so valuable, and it works every single year, and it's kind of predictable too. Like injuries happen in a flurry, and they have in a massive way this year. From the receiving standpoint, it looks like Romeo Doubs is starting to fall out of favor a little bit with the return of Christian Watson. He's had a target share of 15% or lower in 2 of the past 3 games. Christian Watson, meanwhile, has seen his target share just about increase every week and saw a season-high 33% target share against the Vikings. 7 targets, caught 5 of them for 49 yards. Jaden Reed comes back soon. We think that will complicate things, but for now, I think you can roll out Christian Watson as a top 25, top 30 receiver, like a high-end wide receiver 3. I think I would prefer him to Doubs at this point. Maybe the man of the year, JSN, with, shocking, I know, another really good day. He's the all-time single-season Seahawks record holder for receiving yards. He has 1,300 plus with 6 games left to play. And then no one in the history of the NFL, other than JSN, has had at least 75 receiving yards in 11 straight games to start a season. Very impressive stuff there. Yesterday, 8 grabs, 167 through the air, 2 touchdowns. Everyone else combined for, let's do some quick mental math, 54, 62, 72. Everyone else combined for 79 receiving yards. So if you're not starting Jackson Smith and Jigba, you're not starting any Seahawks pass catcher. The one that you could start, and that we're going to start to feel better and better about going forward, is Kenneth Walker, who's being used near the goal line more, who is receiving more snaps in general now. It's not close to the split that it was before. And if we look at the backfield opportunity chart right here, it looks like it may not be done growing, if that makes sense. We might still have more room to take off here as we get down the home stretch of the season. If we're looking at the past couple of weeks, Kenneth Walker has 56% of the snaps. Zach Charbonnet has 39%. Over the course of the entire year, Charbonnet was getting 48% of the snaps to Walker's 46%. So there is a definite changing of the guard happening. Will it grow? I don't know, but I think we have to feel confident that it will continue, considering a lot of this happened after their bye. They had a bye in week 8, and since then, Walker's receiving 52% of the snaps to Charbonnet's 39%. And I've been pretty harsh on the Titans. It's no shade, no disrespect. I feel for Cam Ward. He doesn't really have many weapons to throw to. I love Tyjae Spears, but I'm never starting him over anyone who has like any real value. He's just someone I like halfway as a joke, halfway because why not? I kind of like throwing him into my lineup if I don't really have any other good options. 41% of the snaps, Pollard with 58% of them. But Pollard clearly the preferred rushing option. 11 rushes to Spears' 3. He ran more routes than Spears, 22 to 18. Tyjae Spears did get as many targets. They both had 5 targets, so that's good. Tyjae Spears is the guy in the 2-minute drill, but when this offense is struggling, and honestly, 24 points for the Titans, is that a season high for them? I think that's close to their season high. Let's check that out. 12 points against the Broncos, 19 against the Rams, 20 versus the Colts, nothing versus the Texans, 21 versus the Cardinals, 10 against the Raiders. Yeah, I don't want to keep reading those. This is the most points they have scored this year, so that's kind of discouraging from a fantasy standpoint where you score 24 points and neither back finishes as a top 26 option. On the week, Cam Ward finishes as QB4. Don't think that's going to repeat itself. And then if we're looking at their pass catchers, I guess a pretty dang good game from Chimere DK. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. He had 7 targets, which made up for 19% of them. Gunnar Helm, I almost called him Greg. He also had 7 targets. DK, of course, gets the special teams touchdown and catches 1. Don't think I'm excited enough to start him, but if he's the number 1 option, like I guess this goes for most offenses, the number 1 receiving option is startable as like a flex at the very least, and I think Chimere DK would be that if he's the number 1 guy going forward. Say if it's Elik Iomanner, I think they're pretty even to where there's just not enough footballs to go around to prop one of them up. But if it's just one of them there, they have a high enough floor to not kill you if you relied on them. Is that fair? That's 3 straight games for the Colts now where the offense looks a little sluggish compared to the version of it we saw the first 9 weeks of the season or so. Kansas City dominated time of possession. They ran 91 plays. The Colts ran just 50. So I'm not going to overreact too much to this receiving game. 5 for 45 for Tyler Warren, 5 for 27 and a touchdown for Michael Pittman, 1 and 26 for Alec Pierce. The Colts were playing from ahead most of the day. Jonathan Taylor, 16 for 58. Not great, but not something I'm going to look into too hard. I think this just chalks up to next game, although I am going to stop and hover around and continue to monitor Daniel Jones moving forward. He just hasn't been the same guy, hasn't been quite as good. Now, yesterday, 19 of 31, 181, 2 touchdowns, no picks, so didn't have the turnovers there, but isn't really propelling them or leading them in a way that is turning into points on the scoreboard offensively. Chiefs have a good defense, so I get that. Moving over to them, Rashee Rice's target shares since coming back, 29%, 28%, 24%, 21%, 28%. He dominated against the Colts yesterday. 8 grabs, 141 yards. He did hurt his hamstring late. Don't think that will be an issue moving forward, but again, hamstrings are tricky. Keep an eye on that as the week goes on. Funny outlier stat here from Mike Sando of The Athletic. 144 games with Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs. They had 16 carries under center, which is the second most in those 144 games. Is that an effort to run the ball more, or is that because they ran so many more plays than the Colts? Is it a combination of both where they want to control time of possession more and get the ground game going a little bit? I don't know. Kareem Hunt only averaged 3.5 yards per carry on the ground, but he had 30 carries for 104 yards. He's been really good for fantasy. We've been talking about him as a high floor guy, especially when Isaiah Pacheco doesn't play. I think he's like a must-start RB2 when Isaiah Pacheco is not active, and a fringe starter RB2, RB3 type guy when Pacheco does play. As far as the other receivers go, Travis Kelce, 6 targets, grabs 4 of them for 43, just okay. Same with Xavier Worthy, 8 targets, catches 4 for 59. Worthy is someone I don't want to start unless my back's against the wall and I just have to. Kelce, I'm fine starting every single week. And Rashee Rice, he is the high-end wide receiver 1 that we thought he was when we were hyping up his return coming back from that suspension. Jets at the Ravens. Lamar Jackson doesn't quite look like the same guy since coming back from that injury. Since coming back, his rushing totals, 14 yards, 36 yards, 10 yards, and then 11. So he's clearly not 100%, whether it's a desire to prevent injuries for the home stretch or whether it's just residual lingering. Whatever it is, he's not the same guy. I am close to pressing the panic button. 13 of 23, 153. Now again, against a team like that, how much do you really need to have him moving around on his feet? Let's just get the win and get out of here. That might have been their mentality. Derrick Henry, not very effective on the ground either, but the important number for him is, are they getting carries And is he getting carries at the goal line? And the answer to both of those questions was yes. He scores 2 touchdowns, has 21 carries, gets a couple targets. And then from a receiving standpoint, Zay Flowers, pretty high floor. Here are his fantasy points in PPR league since Lamar came back. 11 points, 12 points, 11 points, 12 points. So not winning you any weeks, but he's not losing you any either. For the Jets, Breece Hall had his highest target share since week 4. Can't pretend to have watched the Jets all year. Only have watched bits and pieces. But I will say the offense does look better with Tyrod Taylor in the picture. Breece Hall, 44 yards on the ground on 16 carries, but 75 through the air. John Mechie, quietly now, pretty solid involvement the past couple weeks, scores a touchdown today. Adonai Mitchell, probably more boom bust. I would rather have John Mechie in full PPR leagues. In half PPR, it's probably a toss-up. In standard, I don't know how many of you out there are in standard leagues, much respect. I would probably rather have Mitchell. Mason Taylor, at this point, I think we like the idea of him, but I don't think we like what we see out there. I think I like the player, just not getting enough opportunities or enough high-value opportunities to make him someone who's worth rostering. You know my philosophy on tight ends. I would not stash a second tight end because odds are there's someone on waivers. Like, you can just stash him in free agency. Like, I would use the free agent pool to be the place where I stash tight ends, because odds are if you're stashing a tight end, there are comparable guys on free agency right now. So drop that one guy or 2-for-1 trade to create a roster spot and go pick up a running back that, if the starter goes down, could win you a matchup. Whether you love Shedeur Sanders or hate him, you probably have an opinion on him, and that's why he is the talk of many football content creators on this Monday morning. His first career start, he completes 11 of 20 passes for a touchdown and a pick. The touchdown he threw was like 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage, but a touchdown that was not a touchdown because their receiver, Isaiah Bond, got tackled inside the 5, maybe even closer to that. Didn't cross the goal line. I'm not sure why I went all the way around to tell you he was close to throwing for a legitimate touchdown pass. But when Andy Reid dials up those jet sweep touch passes to Rashee Rice, that still counts as a touchdown pass for Patrick Mahomes. So why are we going to get upset when we talk about Shedeur Sanders? I don't know. Quinshon Judkins, again, same thing with Derrick Henry. We care about the volume more than the efficiency. 47 yards on 16 carries. Not good efficiency. I believe that's less than 3 yards per carry. Not great at math. Was not great at school in general. It's just some mental math for you. 2 Wildcat carries. 2 goal line touchdowns. We love it. Dylan Sampson, he got the touchdown, a 66-yarder, pretty crazy. The preferred pass catchers were Harold Fannin, Jerry Jeudy, and Cedric Tillman in that order. Jeudy and Tillman each with just 1 catch, and then Jeudy had the idiotic little gallop hurdle fumble. That dude is puzzling. For the tight ends, Fannin ran 17 routes and got 6 targets. Njoku ran 9 routes and had 0. Fannin's the guy you want. I think we've known that the past few weeks, but anytime you see a new quarterback in the fold, you kind of want to see who are they preferring to pass the ball to. And now that we've seen that, at least just one game, that one game sample matches up with most of the rest. So David Njoku, you can go ahead and drop him if you have not done so already. For the Raiders, pretty big storyline dropped during the middle of a Sunday night blowout as offensive coordinator Chip Kelly was fired. If you know me, you know I grew up a Washington Huskies fan, so I really don't like the Oregon Ducks. I don't like Bo Nix and Bucky Irving and Chip Kelly because of that. Like, as people, I'm sure they're fine, but it's the one piece of me that fandom still exists in. And so, like, what is sports fandom without a little bit of a petty rivalry, you know? Again, not speaking on the character of these people, just in general. I like to see Oregon Ducks fail because that means that the Washington Huskies maybe succeeded. Or maybe the Huskies have been so lackluster and so disappointing that I have to derive a lot of my sports fandom from seeing rival players fail. Is that healthy? No. Is it foolish? Yes. Am I sorry? No. Genty has been getting really good passing involvement with Chip Kelly. Hopefully that doesn't change. He had 8 targets, caught all 8 of them for 58 and a touchdown. 17 carries on the ground, 50 yards. No bueno on that front. And then Brock Bowers, think he's kind of a prisoner of just how bad this offense is. Just noticing this shadow behind me and not sure how I'm going to like or dislike that when we edit this, but maybe won't be an issue. Maybe it will. If anything, just something to fix going forward. And then Trey Tucker, 10 targets, caught 3 of them. I don't know how much there is to take away here. I'm still starting Brock Bowers. I still view him as a tight end 1. I still view him as like a mid to high end tight end 1. Just turning down the dial on the optimism a little bit. I do think maybe you could talk me into turning the optimism back up, though, with a new play caller. Chip Kelly's out of there. Can it get much worse? My initial lean is no. I don't think it can. Knock on wood. More crazy things have happened. Trevor Lawrence with 4 turnovers, and it did not matter. Per Mike Sando of The Athletic, NFL teams are 350 and 12. That's 350 wins and 12 losses when finishing the game with a +4 turnover differential. The Cardinals joined rare company, having a +4 turnover differential and losing. Again, the record for teams in those games is 350 wins, 12 losses. Travis Etienne, all the hype, all the noise surrounding Bashal Tutin did not matter. 15 carries, 86 yards, scores on a 15-yard touchdown. He has 4 targets. Pretty good passing involvement for him there. Bashal Tutin, just 8 opportunities for 17 yards. Travis Etienne firmly in the driver's seat. Firmly a low-end RB1, high-end RB2 the rest of the way? I think so. If Bashal Tutin is not going to take over after last week, don't know if that's in their plans going forward. And at 7-4, they are just as much in win-now mode as they are in let's develop for the future mode. So I think all signs point toward Travis Etienne being a pretty good value for you down the stretch. As far as pass catchers go, Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers both decently involved. They each have over 50 yards receiving. Myers had 50 exactly, don't come at me. They both score a touchdown. Because of the investment in Jacoby Myers, I think when BTJ comes back, that bumps down Parker Washington. Brenton Strange probably gets bumped down a tad bit too. He was great first game back. Anytime you can come back from a multi-month absence like he did, and your first game back is to get 93 yards receiving, I think that's got to feel pretty good. From the Arizona standpoint, Jacoby Brissett is a high-volume scorer, man. He is just putting him up. 50 pass attempts as a team, just 20 rushes. That's going to lend itself to a lot of success for Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, even Greg Dortch in this game. Caught 6 of 9 targets for 53 and a tutty. When Marvin Harrison Jr. comes back, I think we will really see what his upside is. Now, Michael Wilson has played well enough to keep him involved when MHJ does come back, but to what extent, I don't know. I guess there is an opportunity for MHJ to come back and be disappointing in comparison to Michael Wilson, but I think MHJ is the better player. Michael Wilson needs to be rostered, should be started as long as MHJ is out as a mid-range wide receiver 2. But when MHJ comes back, I would bump him down to anywhere in the wide receiver 3 territory. For their running backs, I'm just hoping and praying Trey Benson comes back and takes a meaningful share of this backfield. Something that gives me optimism that it will turn out that way is Amari DiMercato did not play this past week, and with that being the case, Bam Knight had about 65% of the opportunities, and Michael Carter had about 35. If that's going to be their plan, like it was when it was James Conner and Trey Benson, it was James Conner 65, Trey Benson 35. And then James Conner got hurt. In the one game we saw with a healthy Trey Benson and no James Conner, it was Trey Benson 65, DiMercato 35. Now with 2 healthy backs, like I just said, Knight 65, Carter 35. I'm thinking that's probably the formula they're going to follow down the stretch of the season. And if so, if you can get past Week 15 against the Texans, plays the Falcons in Week 16, the Bengals in Week 17. Trey Benson, a guy that I would be stashing with my fingers crossed, hoping that the split looks 65-35 or better. If so, think he could win you a couple matchups in the playoffs. Eagles at the Cowboys. If CeeDee Lamb does not drop all those passes in Week 1, are the Cowboys sitting at 6-4 and the Eagles at 7-4? It's a real conversation to be had. His teammate, George Pickens, absolutely running it up. He's second in the entire league in receiving yards. Had 146 last night to go along with a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb drops the ball in the end zone, then caught on the sidelines blaming Dak for the ball placement. Like, bro, you're too good to be acting like that. Like, if success is determined by money, then CeeDee Lamb, you are more successful than me. But for you to drop the ball like this, to get paid the amount of money you do, and then to be talking on the sideline like, why didn't he put it up? Like, catch the ball. Like, with all due respect. I'm not some keyboard warrior. My name is on everything I say. My face is on everything I say. I know he'll never see this, but it's kind of a weak move from a guy making the money he's making. Like, just catch the ball. How about that? Jake Ferguson, 5 catches for 60 yards. Just not the upside that was there early this season. I think it was pretty easy for most people to see that start was outlier-ish. But I say that, and over the course of the season, he's the tight end 2. So what if we cut that sample in half? What if we go last 6 weeks versus first 6 weeks? Tight end 14 the second half of the season. Tight end 1 the first half. So numbers can lie in that sense, right? He's the tight end 2 over the course of the year, but tight end 14 the second half. If you can use that to sell high, if you can get tight end 2 value for him, I don't know if you can, but if you can, I would try. Javonte, really good game. Malik Davis, I guess an interesting handcuff. He just hasn't gotten a ton of work, but when he does, he's been fairly effective. This is back-to-back games with at least 5 yards per carry. Now, granted, he only has 7 carries during that span, but this offense is good enough to where if Javonte were to go down, Malik Davis would be a starter in your fantasy league. For Philly, 21-0 to 21-24 is pretty wild, and I think a big reason to do with the confusion surrounding the Eagles offense is their running game. They are 25th. They are 25th in yards per carry this year. Last year they were 5th. That's a 20-spot drop. You go from the top of the league, top 5, to bottom 7. Just a really gross development there. I do have optimism down the stretch for Saquon. He is getting a ton of involvement. 8 targets looks really good. They play the Bears, Chargers, Raiders, Commanders, and Bills down the stretch. Some really, really tasty matchups there. If you can just kind of get through this tough time, I think a lot of these offensive pieces could be due for some blow-ups. A.J. Brown, past couple weeks, got a ton of targets. He gets 110 yards and a touchdown yesterday. Devontae Smith, also with double-digit targets, leads the team with 11. 8 for 89, no touchdown. Or 6 for 89, no touchdown. But you're going to live with 15 fantasy points from just about anybody if that's not his floor. But if that's what they're giving you, like, you can't be mad at that. And I hope you're not, with A.J. Brown being more successful than Devontae Smith recently. Not much luck for Tyler Shuck after the bye. 30 of 43, 243 through the air, and a pick. Alvin Kamara gets hurt, probably out for a little bit, potentially out the rest of the season. Not trying to jump the gun. Just older player, team with not much to play for. How much does he want to rush back? He wants to stay in New Orleans. Does it make much sense to play him? Like, what are you playing for? Don't know if he plays again this year. That's my hot take. Maybe it's not a hot take. Devin Neal, though, becomes a priority ad because of it, particularly because of his involvement in the passing game. 7 targets, catches 5 of them for 43 yards, and the Saints do have a very favorable playoff schedule. They get the Panthers, the Jets, and the Titans during the championship week. You're not starting Devin Neal over any guy who got you there, but God forbid, injuries, no bye weeks in week 17, but injuries or just any sort of other developments coming up. I've started Tyjae Spears in a semi-championship or a semi-game before, or in the quarterfinals, or Amir Abdullah in a championship game. Like, sometimes you find yourself in those situations. I think Devin Neal deserves to be rostered in every league if Alvin Kamara is going to miss, whether it's extended time or short term. Like, he should be rostered. Receiver standpoint, not too much new to dig into here. I don't think we learned anything. We just kind of reinforced what we knew. Chris Olave is going to get a ton of targets, but he's not going to have a ton of scoring opportunities. 9 catches for 70 yards. You feel good about 16 points. And then Juwan Johnson, just classic stat line for him here. He's going to have 3 to 6 grabs. He's going to have 30 to 60 yards. And he's got a 50-50 chance of scoring a touchdown. I think you want that in your lineup most weeks, unless you have a studded tight end. For the Falcons, Kirk Cousins was not as bad as we've been talking about, but 16 of 23, 199 through the air, 2 touchdowns and a pick. It's decent. Bijan Robinson, 5 yards a carry, but only 14 carries. Tyler Algier, 12 carries for 44. Darnell Mooney leads the way from a yardage standpoint through the air, 74 yards and a touchdown. Back to Bijan, just 2 targets for him. Not being looked at in the passing game as much as he was with Michael Penix Jr. Looking at this Falcons target share chart, I guess his usage was kind of waning, but 17% target share last week, 10% this week. In games where he's not receiving 15 plus carries and only 2 targets, yeah, he's going to have that he has a good floor. That's the thing. We talk about Bijan so much differently than we talk about anyone else because we expect the volume to be really good. He was still a top 17 play this week entering Monday Night Football, so probably finishes closer to 20th. And if that's his floor, like, he's not losing you any weeks. Like, he had 12.5 PPR points. But we want the JT performances. We want the Jahmyr Gibbs performances. We want some of the Rico Dowdle performances. And he's given you that over the course of the season. Still a top 5 back, but it does seem like those are becoming rarer and rarer. And that sounds rarer. And might continue to be the case as long as Kirk Cousins is under center. Drake London, I view him as more of a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 when he comes back, hoping he comes back, crossing my fingers he comes back. Just Kirk Cousins, it's like a slow leak in a balloon. Like if you could puncture a balloon without it popping, that's kind of what the Falcons' whole offense feels like right now. It still exists, it's still there, but it's just slowly and slowly becoming less lifelike. Lively? I don't know. Sunday night game was a good time for the Raiders to news dump that they were firing their OC in the middle of the season. Teddy Bridgewater came in. That may be one of the worst backup performances I've ever seen. Just looked like me or you out there. No shade, no disrespect. He's a high character guy. He might tell you the same thing. And to his credit, they're missing Bucky Irving. They have a shell of Chris Godwin. They don't have Mike Evans out there. There are probably a whole bunch of other important personnel injuries that exist that I'm numb to or not privy to because I don't follow the team. Just a really rough spot all the way around for the Buccaneers. No success here to speak of. If Baker Mayfield were to miss time, I would significantly bump down everyone here. I don't even know, there's so many ifs this happens, or if that happens, or if Bucky Irving comes back, or if Baker Mayfield plays, or if he's 100%. I'm still starting Emeka Egbuka, but as a mid to low end wide receiver 2 for the time being until we know more about the QBs. And other than that, K. Otton's getting good involvement, but it's not translating to success. I think he's comparable to a lot of the guys out there on waivers. I don't know. I just don't know about the Bucs. I don't feel good about any of it right now. Bucky Irving, I would when he comes back. Emeka Egbuka, still feel good enough to play him. Sorry for keep pronouncing the G. I just C-E-G-B and I go Egb. He's still a rookie. Wait till his third year. I should have his name pronunciation nailed. For the Rams, Matthew Stafford is in the driver's seat to win the MVP, and I think he's separated, especially after Sam Darnold's 4 turnover implosion against the Rams last week. He's got to be in the driver's seat, and the next closest guys are in the very back. You know when all the kids pile into the minivan and there's a driver's seat passenger, that first row, and then behind them is that... the other candidates might be in a trailer behind the car right now because he is dialed in. And Devontae Adams said this is the most fun team he's ever been a part of. He's been a part of a lot of good teams. But this Rams team, man, just rolling. Sean McVay doing a hell of a job. Devontae with 2 tutties yesterday. Puka Nacua, 11 targets for 97 yards. Kyron Williams, obviously the only disappointing spot on the day. Not sure if that was because of how much they were up. Doesn't make too much sense. You'd think that they'd run more than 19 times. For going to team stats here, what did the time of possession look like? The Buccaneers did have a greater time of possession. I'm not going to take too much away from the running game here. I think it's also kind of hard to run sometimes when the defense knows you're in a run-first situation. But again, with that being said, they passed the ball a whole bunch, 35 times compared to just 19 rush attempts. Bills versus Texans. Josh Allen clearly struggling with, like, he does not have a legitimate receiving core, especially with Keon Coleman, who is like average at best, benched. He has taken a sack, on 7.9% of his dropbacks. That's the highest rate since his rookie season. James Cook, obviously a stud, 116 on the ground and a touchdown. Also on the Bills, want to show some love to Khalil Shakir. He was awesome just from a real-life standpoint. 10 targets, 110 yards, 8 grabs. The Texans' defense, if we want to talk about them, has not allowed a top 12 QB performance, so maybe think about that as we get toward the meat and potatoes of clutch time in the fantasy world. If your quarterback is playing the Texans, maybe look for a pivot just in case. For the Texans, Nico Collins got banged up. Had a pretty encouraging start. I'm still firing him up every week. And then Jaden Higgins is a guy I'm interested in, kind of as like a wide receiver 4 type. Woody Marks has kind of kicked Nick Chubb to the curb. All right, that is all I got for you today. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for being part of my Monday evening, which is when I am recording this. I hope you don't need a Monday Night Miracle to win your matchup. If you lost this week, you just got to strap back up, get ready to go back into the trenches for Week 13. We will be here for a Week 13 preview this week after missing the Week 12 preview last week. So if you enjoyed what you saw and you're still here, go ahead and sub to the channel. Go drop a like. There might be a bell icon. People say that. You can press the bell to get notified so you don't miss any content. Something like that. That's all I got for y'all. Have a great week. Have a great Thanksgiving. And I will see you soon. I appreciate and love all of you. That's it for now. Deuces.